All right, let's talk about something that pretty much runs the show for a lot of us, our emotions. We're going to explore how you can go from feeling completely controlled by your feelings to actually understanding them and maybe even making them your ally instead of your master. I mean, you've been there, right? We all have. One minute everything's cool, and the next, bam, you get hit by this massive wave of anger or sadness or anxiety. It really feels like you're not even driving your own car anymore. You're just a passenger getting taken for a wild ride. But here's the thing, and this is really important. What if I told you that this isn't some personal failing? It's not because you're too sensitive or weak or anything like that. The real issue? It's that your brain, well, it's running on some seriously ancient software. So, what's really going on in there? Well, here's a mind bender for you. Our brains were never designed to make us happy. Not their primary job. They were designed for one thing: survival. I mean, just think about it. For our ancestors, staying alive meant you had to be constantly scanning for danger, right? A tiger in the bushes, a snake on the path. And that built-in threat detector, it's still running in our heads 24/7. And this explains so much. It's exactly why 100 people can tell you you're doing great, but that one negative comment is all you can think about for the rest of the day. Because to your brain, that criticism is a threat. It literally treats a harsh email with the same red alert alarm system it would use for a predator. So when you feel that anxiety or fear bubble up, remember, you're not broken. It's just your brain doing its ancient job a little too well in our modern world. Okay, so how do we start to work with this ancient wiring instead of just being a victim to it? Well, it all begins with what is probably the single most powerful shift in perspective you can possibly make. It's a fundamental change in how you relate to, well, everything going on inside you. I love this way of thinking about it. Imagine you are the sky. You're vast, you're stable, you're always there. Now, your emotions, whether it's anger, joy, sadness, you name it, they're just the clouds. They drift in, right? Maybe they block out the sun for a little while, make things feel dark and stormy, but they always, always pass. The clouds are not the sky. You are the sky. And you can make this idea really concrete with a super simple change in the words you use. Think about it. When you say, I am angry, you're basically fusing your entire identity with that feeling. You're saying the cloud is the sky. But watch what happens when you just tweak the language a little. I feel anger. Or I'm noticing a feeling of anger. See that? Suddenly you've created a little bit of space. The anger is just a temporary experience passing through you. It's not who you are. Okay, so if emotions aren't who we are, then what in the world are they? Well, it turns out they're not just these random, mysterious forces that hijacked us. They're actually built. And they follow a surprisingly simple formula. The best part, if you can understand the formula, you can learn how to deconstruct them. And here it is, a really useful way to think about it. A big, powerful emotion is usually built from three key ingredients. First, there's the interpretation we give to whatever happened. Then, there's our identification with that story, making it all about me. And finally, there's repetition. Just playing that story over and over in our heads. Let's look at how this actually works with a real-world example. Okay, let's take a super common one, the unanswered text. Step 1, the event itself. Your friend doesn't text back for a few hours. That's it. It's totally neutral. It has zero built-in meaning. But then, step 2, your brain jumps in with an interpretation. Instead of the 1,000 other possibilities like, oh, they're probably just busy, your brain goes straight to, they're ignoring me, they don't care. And then comes step 3, identification and repetition. You make it personal. It becomes, this always happens to me, I'm not important, and you just spin that thought over and over and over. And that's how a completely neutral event becomes a source of some serious pain. So now we can see how an emotion gets built brick by brick. And you know what the fantastic news is? Once you know how something is built, you have the power to take it apart. So, let's get practical. Let's dive into the actual toolkit you can start using to regain control. And it really boils down to 3 core areas, 3 pillars of emotional balance. First, you've got to reframe your story. Second, you need to manage your physical state because your body and mind are not separate things. And third, you have to curate your environment. Be the gatekeeper. Reframing the story. This is all about challenging that first automatic interpretation your brain serves up. So your boss scolds you. The knee-jerk story is, oh no, I'm terrible at my job, I'm gonna get fired, right? But what if you paused and reframed it? What if the news story is, wow, they must be having a really bad day. Maybe they just got some bad news or they're under a ton of pressure. Can you feel how that changes everything? That spike of fear can just dissolve and maybe even turn into a little bit of compassion. Now, managing your physical state. This one sounds so basic, but we overlook it all the time. I mean, have you ever noticed how you're just way more irritable when you're tired or hungry? That is not a coincidence. If your body's running on empty, your emotional resilience is basically zero. Seriously, sometimes the most profound spiritual thing you can do for yourself is just get a good night's sleep or drink a big glass of water. Okay, now we're going to get into a really radical idea, a total game changer. What if our so-called negative emotions aren't actually the enemy? What if instead of trying to crush them or push them away, we actually leaned in and started to listen to what they're trying to tell us? The best analogy I've ever heard for this is the warning lights on your car's dashboard, right? When the check engine light flicks on, you don't take a hammer and smash it, yelling, go away. Of course not. You know it's a signal. It's a messenger telling you, hey, something under the hood needs your attention. Your emotions are exactly the same. They are just messengers trying to deliver a really important message. So what are these messages? Well, think of it like a translation guide. That feeling of fear, it's probably a signal to prepare better for something. That flash of anger, that's often a sign that one of your boundaries has been crossed. And that nagging feeling of dissatisfaction, that's your inner compass telling you it's time to grow. When you start to see these feelings as data, not just drama, the whole game changes. Okay, so what do you do when you're right in the thick of it, when that wave is crashing over you? Here's a simple 4-step process. Step 1, just observe. Don't judge, just notice, like a scientist. Okay, heart is beating fast. I feel a tightness in my stomach. Step 2, accept. Don't fight the feeling. Just let it be there for a second. It's okay that I'm feeling this right now. Step 3, inquire. Get curious. Ask yourself, what's the story I'm telling myself that's causing this? And finally, step 4, change. You can choose to change the story or just change your focus to something else entirely. So those are the in-the-moment tools, and they are absolutely crucial. But what about the long game? How do we build a more resilient foundation so we just get hijacked less often in the first place? Let's talk about some long-term strategies for that. Because of that old survival wiring, our brains are basically like Velcro for bad experiences and Teflon for good ones. The bad stuff sticks, the good stuff just slides right off. A daily gratitude practice is one of the best ways to start rewiring that. It's so simple. Just taking a minute each day to name 3 small things you're thankful for. It literally trains your brain to start scanning for the good stuff, slowly but surely changing your default setting. It's also so important to understand the difference between short-term pleasure and long-term fulfillment. They are not the same thing. We spend so much of our lives chasing these little dopamine hits, right? That quick buzz from a social media notification, a sugary treat, a new purchase. It feels good for a second, but it fades fast. Real, lasting well-being, that comes from serotonin. That's the feeling of deep satisfaction you get from meaningful work, from helping other people, from feeling like you're part of something bigger than just yourself. So, to wrap all this up, let's come back to one final image. Think of your emotions as a powerful, wild horse. They've got all this energy, all this strength. Now, the goal isn't to tame the horse or get rid of it. That power is useful. The goal is to become a skilled rider, to learn how to hold the reins and gently guide all that incredible energy in the direction you actually want to go. And really, if you only take one single thing away from all of this, let it be this. No matter how intense the storm feels, no matter how dark the feeling gets, it's temporary.
It's just a cloud passing. It is not the whole sky.
Look, this is all just interesting information until you actually use it. So I want to leave you with a question to take with you into the rest of your day. Based on everything we've talked about, what's the first emotion that comes up today that you're going to try to listen to instead of just reacting to? Because that's where the journey to mastery really begins, with that very first moment of awareness.